All right, guys, it's May 2020. We're taking a look back at what happened in April 2020. Now, a few things. Obviously, I'm here at the office trying out some new software, okay, and trying out some new and different ways to record video to make it exciting, to make it interesting. You're seeing all these little different bubbles around me. Who knows what might happen? I'm not sitting in front of a boring calendar that doesn't move. So, yeah, just wanted to engage in a bit of a different way and still provide info that might be very helpful. So let's get right into it. We sold a total of 913 residential and condo properties in April 2020, a marked drop from how many properties we sold in 2019, which was 2,025. That's a decrease of 54.9%. Now, if you think about that, that's a lot less properties that have been sold. However, I think that there might have been a lot more properties sold off market from person to person, even involving agents potentially, but just not on MLS because people were a little bit concerned about showing properties, how to show properties. If it's sold off MLS, an agent can simply sell it directly and control a little bit more of the situation. And of course, keep everybody safe because that's the most important thing. Okay. Now, when we get into the exact numbers of it all, you can see the average price, okay, is actually at 467, 462. Sorry, 476, 462 versus last year it was 449, 910. So that's an increase of 5.9%. Now, the year-to-date numbers show obviously a very similar decrease. That number went down to 4,348 year-to-date versus 5,352. Again, that's a decrease of 18.8%. Okay, now if we really think about that, and we look at what the numbers are year to date in terms of average sale price for both condo and residential, we're looking at 496,180 versus 431,464. So that's, like I say, that's an increase of 15%. Now, if we look at the inventory in terms of all properties that have sold, oops, went one too far. Sorry, guys. We look at the inventory. The 2020 inventory, okay, here's what's available for sale, 1920 versus in 2019 it was 3699. That's a decrease of 48%. So although the number of sales is down by 54%, the inventory is also down by 48%. So that means we've got 2.1 months of inventory, which is still technically a seller's market. 2019 was at 1.82 months of inventory at the end of April, and March 2020 was 1.26 months of inventory. So the absorption rate is starting to lighten up, and of course, absorption rate is a very good indicator of what will change in terms of values. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to break it down into, first of all, the residential side and then the condo side, as we typically do. So the residential market. Okay, you can see here the number of sales was hovering at about 700 versus last year was 1591. That's, again, a decrease of 56%. However, the average price went up. Now, it went up versus same period last year, which is this bar here, but it also went down versus what the trajectory it was looking at. So although the average price of residential property is at 521,694, the average price last year was 488,533. That's an increase of 6.8%. But year to date, okay, we have actually sold far less properties. We've sold 3,255 residential properties versus 4,087. So that's a decrease of 20.4%. All right. And of course, that's really heavily driven by the drop at the end of March and the drop in number of sales in April. However, the average price has gone up on residential properties. You can see this huge gap here versus this red line here represents 2019. The average price has gone up by 15.1% on the residential side. Okay, it's up now at 554. 409 year to date versus 473, 716 by this point in time in 2019. Now, as far as the inventory goes, okay, the inventory is hovering in the neighborhood of about 1564 versus last year at this time, the inventory was 2905. That's a decrease of 45.9%. However, we still have, because there's so few properties that are for sale, we still have 2.23 months of inventory. Again, that makes it a seller's market, okay, versus 1.4 months of inventory in March, okay, and 1.82 in 2019. So we can see that the absorption rate is starting to slow. However, for the first month this year, we're not seeing a 20% growth year over year. It's still at 7% year over year, which is staggering considering the pandemic. But what we're seeing here is we're seeing a reduction in the absorption rate, and it's starting to be evident. So it might mean eventually that we'll come out of a seller's market. However, it might not. Okay, we might have been experiencing the bottom of the V and are starting to come back up out over it. The condo world, of course, when we break down into the condo numbers, sees something very similar. Okay, although we sold a lot less condos, we sold 213 in April versus 439 in April 2019. That's a decrease of 50.9. The average price is still higher. Okay, so if we compare this average price of 327,813 to this average price of 308,312, we've gone up by 6.3%. But you can see how we were tracking and then how we sort of dropped off here. So year to date, we've actually sold 1093 condos versus 1265 in 2019. So that's a decrease of 13.9%. However, you can see the huge gap between here, the purple line and the red line. Okay, so we've gone up in average sale price, in terms of average sale price, by 18.5%. All right, what that means is our average sale price for a condo is at $349,575 versus $294,955. Okay, now if we start to look at the inventory, that's the other part of the story, okay? We look at everything together. Now look at how low the condo inventory is now. We're at 356 condos for sale, okay, at the end of this month, versus last year we were at 794. That's a decrease of 55.4%. However, we're still at 1.67 months of inventory. And at the end of March in 2020, we were under a month of inventory. We were at 0.96. And in 2019, we were at 1.82. So the apartment style units sales were affected the most, as many were not allowing showings. Now, as people begin to adapt to what's happening on the market, things will change. Okay, things will open up. People will be able to buy properties more so. And we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Of course, none of us have a crystal ball. However, we're tracking on a weekly basis what's happening. And it seems as though we've hit the bottom of the V. And so prices might not be climbing at 20% like we saw earlier this year. They might only be going up by 1 or 2 or 5%, which is average for Ottawa. So if you'd like to know what all of this means, or how all of this affects you or your family, how you can sell a home during a pandemic without any showings and still net top dollar, or how you can buy a home from the comfort of your couch, we have all of the technology now in place to be able to allow anything from business as usual to complete shelter-in-place strategies and everything along the middle. So if you're interested in any of this, please reach out. Give us a call at 613-314-3187. And until then, Styfire out.